When querying data, one of the biggest things that you'll have to do is to choose the rows that you want to retrieve out of the database. This is going to be accomplished by creating where statements. We're going to start off by taking a look at the basics of a where statement and how to create one. Then we'll turn our attention to dealing with null data, which is going to wind up being a little bit tricky when creating our where statements because of the way that SQL handles null values. Let's start off by taking a look at how to create our where statements. A where statement in SQL is going to be used to filter out certain rows. And you'll notice inside of our select syntax that it's going to exist right after our from line. One little thing to note about the where statement, and we'll see this in action in a couple of minutes, is that even though the where line appears after select, the where line is going to be one of the first things that SQL Server is going to process. The reason for this is because SQL wants to process as little data as possible. So if we're going to be filtering out rows, SQL wants to get rid of those rows right away. What this means is that if we alias a column, those column aliases are not going to be available to us inside of our where line. Our where statements are going to allow us to filter out rows. Now, basically, every query that you're ever going to create is going to utilize a where statement because almost every query that you ever create is going to require a filter on the rows. So for example, I may be looking for sales from just a particular region or from a particular set of regions. So if I'm the manager of the Northwest region, I really only care about sales in Northwest. I may also be looking for orders from a particular customer. If that's the case, then on the where line, I can say where, for example, customer ID equals the customer ID that I'm looking for. Finally, I may be looking for sales from a particular year. And again, I'm going to add that into my where line. Now, the way that a where line is going to be put together is based on what are known as predicates. And a predicate, again, is a very fancy way of saying filter. The way that this is going to be built is by having the name of my column first, and then the operator, and then the value that I'm going to be looking for. And as a best practice, you want to make sure that you have that column listed first. SQL actually supports a good handful of operators. I've listed the most common ones here, where we've got equals, we've got not equals, which by the way is done by using a less than and a greater than. SQL does support the ability to use an exclamation point and then an equal sign, which is very common in a lot of different programming languages, but convention in SQL is to use the less than greater than. You'll notice that we've got less than, you'll notice that we've got greater than, you'll notice that we've got less than equal to, you'll notice that we've got greater than equal to. So for example, if I wanted to go find every single person with a last name of Smith, my query would look a little bit like this. Let's start off by saying select, and let's go with our last name and first name from person.contact. And let's add in our where statement, and so we'll say where last name equals Smith. And if we execute our query, what you're going to notice is, sure enough, we're going to get all of our different contacts with a last name of Smith. And obviously, of course, nobody else. Now, one of the things that I mentioned before is the fact that any column names that I might have aliased are not going to be available inside of the where line. So for example, maybe my application is going to require LNAME and FNAME as our aliases. Now, if I, down below, say LNAME equal to Smith, you're going to notice that I'm going to get an error message telling me an invalid column name of LNAME. The reason for that is that in this query, my from line is going to execute first. It's going to be a very big one there. My where line is going to execute second. And then the select line is going to execute third. Because my select line is executing after the where line, the aliases that we created are not yet available. And that's why we're not going to be able to utilize any aliases inside of our where line. So even if we have aliased a column name, we're not going to be able to use that down below. We're going to need to always use the original column name. So it's always going to be, in our case, last name equals, and then whatever we want that value to be.